Welcome guys, welcome to the day one of the WebDriver training. So in our previous RC sessions we have seen that Selenium is not actually an automation tool, rather it's an API. So to prove this thing, I'm gonna show you how actually the architecture of Selenium RC or WebDriver was designed. Basically, these two were the Java projects itself, right? Like in RC, we have seen that they have implemented a class called default Selenium, and they have generated a jar file out of that project, and that jar file we have used in our Java project and called the methods that they have implemented inside that class. And same way in WebDriver as well, they have implemented various classes and various interfaces. So WebDriver is completely object oriented because there are so many classes and interfaces used in building up the WebDriver architecture. So I'll show you with a small project that we're gonna create right now. It's a dummy project that we're gonna create, in which I'll show you how exactly they have created like these Java projects. So it will give you a rough idea, understanding about how these Java projects actually work, right? So what I'll do, I'll very quick open up the Eclipse. So I'll go to C drive, software, Eclipse folder, and I'll double click on this. And I'll create a new project. Let's say I'll create a workspace project WebDriver, or let's say first of all I'll show you how Selenium default Selenium class was implemented. So I'll say project RC. I'll create one for RC, and then we'll do it for WebDriver. Because in RC we have only one class, that is default Selenium class, whereas WebDriver follows the concept of object oriented, in which we have some interface as well as some classes. So over here, if you see the Java doc, in WebDriver is an interface, and WebDriver implements all these classes, right? And if we talk about the default Selenium class in Selenium RC, then default Selenium is the only class that we have used in Selenium RC, and it has all the methods that we have used, right? So these are methods that we have used in automating our website, right? But if we talk about the architecture of WebDriver, I can show you this is some of the sample you can say a rough diagram that I have created over here, and I can show you that this is basically a WebDriver, and it is actually implemented by various classes like Firefox driver. We have other classes as well, like Chrome driver, IE driver, and all of them, their super class is remote WebDriver. So this is the main WebDriver in which you're gonna find all the methods. Rest, there are other sub interfaces as well, which are there in the main WebDriver interface, and there is another class known as remote web element, right? Remote web element class contains all the methods that we're gonna use. And how we're gonna use this, at this moment, to understand the complete architecture would be really complicated, right? But once you start working on WebDriver, and once you start implementing all these things, once you start using the functionalities from all these interfaces and classes, then you yourself will feel comfortable while working with WebDriver, right? So there is nothing like you can just go through the documentation and you will be able to grab everything from WebDriver. It's nothing like that. Everything will gonna come by practice only, and I have made everything in these tutorials in a very detailed way that once you start learning through these videos, you will actually be able to implement WebDriver in your current automation project. And also the people who worked on this WebDriver project, who have actually created these WebDriver project, I mean, are associated to Google. And Simon Stewart is the one who came up with this WebDriver project, and he has overcome all the challenges in Selenium RC that were faced due to the JavaScript injection. So now in WebDriver there is no JavaScript injection, JavaScript injection. So that, I mean, if you see, I mean, the documentation, they have created a very good Java doc, and they have shown what all classes they have implemented and what all methods are used over here. But to get the complete understanding of these classes and how actually they work, you need to practically implement it by yourself first, right? You cannot learn all these classes. No, you cannot keep all these classes in your mind. These will only come, I mean, with the practice only. The more you practice, the more you will familiar with the classes and interface that are used in WebDriver. In seleniumhq.org, they have provided very good documentation on this, right? So just go through all these documentation and try implementing all these classes one by one. And in my videos, I have tried to cover maximum part of it, so that, I mean, I can be able to give you at least a start on your WebDriver project. So just go through all these, and I mean, and you yourself will feel really confident after, I mean, you have implemented, after you have automated even one project by your own using WebDriver, right? So let's see. I'll open this project. I'll open Eclipse and create one project and give this Java project name as, let's say, remote control, right? So I'm creating a dummy project in front of you. I'll first create how they have created a class RC, and how they have created methods inside that class. So what I'll do, I'll create a new class with the name default Selenium, right? And in this class, I'm going to implement some methods like, if you go over here to the default Selenium class, default Selenium, this is the one. Okay, so in this default Selenium class, you can see there are many methods over here. Method like, let's say I need to click on a link, button, or a checkbox. They have implemented a method like click. Now how they have implemented this method, they've just created one class and created a method inside it, and given the name of that method as, let's say, click, right? And now this click method accepts one argument, that is the locator. So locator, I'll give it like this. I'll create a string locator over here. If you have seen over here, they have created a string locator, right? So I'll give string locator, and I'll just give a message inside it. I'll say clicked on an element, and let's say I'll call this locator over here, right? This is the one method that we have implemented, and we have given it the name as click. So I'll implement one more method. I'll say public void. The second method I'm going to implement is, let's say, the second method we should implement is type. Okay, this is the type method they have implemented. So I'll say public void type, and in type I'll say the first argument is the locator. I'll say string locator, and the second argument they have implemented is the value, right? So over here I'll write clicked okay, sorry, type what should we say, selected the element as plus locator, and then typed the value as plus value, right? So if you are not able to understand that what I am trying to do over here, just be with me, and sometime it will be very clear to you that what exactly we are going to do over here, right? And let's implement one more method, that is public void start, and in this I'll say starting the Selenium session, right? And this default Selenium class, if you see, there is a constructor as well, a constructor summary. So this is the 4 argument constructor that we have used in default Selenium. So how to create a constructor? A constructor has the same name as of the class name. So I'll give the constructor as this, and this is a 4 argument constructor. So what are the 4 arguments? The first one is string, that is the server host, then string, second one is the int, that is the server port, then string, just copy it from here, then string browser URL, right? And okay, alright, and here they have basically implemented the functionality that, it should ask for the server host, port, browser, and the URL, and these are the arguments that we need to provide. So I'll just print all these things, like my server host, I'll say server host is the server host, and then H, capital H, and then server port is the server port, and then browser, then the URL, and let's give the browser over here and the URL, right? So we'll do only this much in the default Selenium class. So what I'll do now, I'll go to file and go to export, and then I'll select this Java jar file. I'll click on next, and I can then check this one, right? So you don't need to check these files, and in the jar file you can give the name as, let's say you can select the folder desktop, and here you can give the file name as Selenium remote control, and or before doing this, what you can do, I can create one more package. I can create a package and give it a name as com.thoughtworks, right, dot Selenium. Finish this and move this class to this package, right, and just remove it from here. what we have done, we have this package, and inside this package we have this class, right? Now we'll create a jar file. So I'll create a jar file now by clicking on export, then Java jar file, click on next and uncheck these two and browse desktop, and here I'll give the file name as Selenium remote control and some version name 2.33.jar, right? So I'm just giving a dummy name to show you how this is actually created, right? And then click on finish. And now if you take a look over here, this is the jar file that is created, right? So I have so many files over here, I need to clean my desktop. So this is the jar file that we have downloaded in RC. If you see the jar file that we have downloaded in the jars folder, so this was the Selenium server standalone jar file, right? This is the one that is provided by Selenium HQ, right? And this is the dummy jar file that we have created. Now what I'm gonna do, I'll create a new project. Let's say I'll create a new project, a new Java project, and give it a name as, let's say, test. What name should we give it to? Like remote control. It should be a test remote control, in which I will be calling that jar file. So this is my Java project, or let's give it a name as test my RC project. Finish. This is the new project that is created. Now I'll create a new class file, give this file name as test, let's say sample, and check the main method. So in this main method, what I'll be doing, I'll be calling my Selenium jar file that I have created. So I'll go to build path, configure build path, libraries, add external jars, and this is the jar file I've created. I'll click on OK. So I've added this jar file over there, right? Now what I need to do, I'll create the object of default Selenium class in order to access the method from this class. So I'll create an object Selenium equal to new default Selenium, right? Now as soon as like I call this thing, if I take my mouse over here, you can see I will get an option import default Selenium. So I'll click on this and this is imported, right? And then you can see there is a 4 argument constructor that we have implemented that we need to call over here. So 4 arguments we need to give over here. The first argument was the server host, so we'll give it as local host. Then the second argument is the port. The third argument is the browser, so I'll give it as Firefox. And the fourth argument is the website on which you want to navigate, right? And the second thing, now if you say Selenium dot, you will able to access all the methods inside this class. So we have implemented a method start, we implemented a method type, and we have implemented the method click. So if I say Selenium dot start, then I'll say Selenium dot click, and let's say I'm giving the locator as submit button, and then I'll say Selenium dot type, and locator is text box, and the value that we're going to provide is trainer at way2automation.com, right? Now we'll just save it and run it, and you will see that the server host, local host, and starting the Selenium session, clicked on an element and selected the element as type box, and the value is this, right? So this is how actually they have designed this project, right? They have implemented a class, and in that class they have implemented various methods, And see, in this method, like we have just printed the things by giving system.out.println, but they have actually implemented the functionality of how you can automate your website. They have actually implemented these functionality in all these methods, right? So whatever methods that you see over here, they have actually implemented the entire functionality which helps in automating your website using these methods, right? So this is what I was explaining you, that Selenium is an API. So this jar file is basically an API that we have called in our Java project, and we have automated, we have started automating our application, right? Now same way, when we have migrated to WebDriver, so WebDriver is an interface, right? In Selenium as well, I mean in default Selenium, in Selenium RC as well, we have an interface with the name Selenium, but that interface we do not use it very often because we only have one class over here, right? If you see over here, we have an interface in Selenium RC as well. So this is the interface Selenium, which is implemented in these two classes, default Selenium and the WebDriver back Selenium. Now this interface was required, I mean like when they have implemented this WebDriver back Selenium class in order to migrate our existing Selenium RC code to WebDriver, right? So but now, I mean, we already have WebDriver, so we won't be using this WebDriver back Selenium. So that is the reason, I mean, in case we are only working on RC, we can use this class and directly, and we can start working on it, right? So later on, I mean, when they came up with WebDriver, they have implemented so many classes and so many interfaces. And let's say if I'm working on Chrome driver at this moment, and if I want to switch to Firefox driver, if in my project I've created my entire project using the Chrome driver, using the methods available in this Chrome driver class, and now I want to switch to Firefox driver, so I won't be changing my entire method if I have used this WebDriver interface, because this WebDriver interface is implemented in Chrome driver as well. It is also implemented in Firefox driver. So these are all the classes that implements the same WebDriver. So whatever methods are there inside this Chrome driver, you'll find the same methods implemented in WebDriver as an abstract methods, right? Over here as well, if you go through these documentation, you'll come to know that like whenever this will gonna help you when you write your test case against this interface, so that you may swap in more fully featured browser, right, when there is a requirement for one. So if you want to swap between browsers, you need to use this WebDriver interface. The more you go in depth of WebDriver, the more you will gonna come to know how actually WebDriver is designed, right? Because there is the same click method that is implemented in Chrome driver, same click method is implemented in Firefox, same click method is implemented in IE as well, right? So but the definition might be different in Chrome, the definition might be different in Firefox, and the definition of click might be different in Internet Explorer. So if you have used just Firefox driver class and not the interface, then I mean when you are switching to Chrome driver, then the click method that was implemented there was of Firefox driver, right? So I'll show you this I mean by designing the things that we have designed in RC. I'm going to design the same concept in for WebDriver as well, and then we will proceed with how actually we can automate using this WebDriver interface and using these classes, right? So this will going to be a really interesting chapter, but this covers your basics of WebDriver and RC, like how these were initially designed and how you can implement all these things in your Java project, right? So you'll definitely going to like all this for sure, right? So let's see, I'll again go to my project, and here I'll create one more project and give it a name as, let's say, WebDriver, right? So I'll click on finish, and here I'll create some classes. I'll give the class name, I'll pick some classes from this WebDriver project. So the very first class I'm going to implement is Chrome driver, and check this main method. I'll create one more class and I'll give it Firefox driver. Then I'll create one more class, that is Internet Explorer driver, and then I'll create one interface, not the package, I need to create a package as well. First I'll create an interface and give this interface name as WebDriver, right? I'll create one package, com dot whatever name you can give to this, openqa dot WebDriver or dot Selenium, and then click on finish, and I'll just move all these things to this package and delete it from here, right? So now in WebDriver is an interface, so it contains all the abstract methods. So I'll implement some methods over here like public void, the method name I can give it as click, and string locator, and public void, what is the next name, should be send keys. So in RC we have a method type, but in WebDriver we have send keys. So over here, if you see, these are some of the methods you can find over here. So you will be able to find these methods inside this web element, and if you see, web element is also an interface. So this is one of the interface, and if you see over here, the method like click, and the method like when we need to type something, so the method is type, so it simulates typing into an element, right? So like if I talk about this interface, it would be very difficult for me to make you understand what exactly is web element, because web element also, it is implemented in all these classes, and remote web element is the main class where you'll find the implement of all these methods actually over here, right? So it's very difficult for me to explain everything in the first session itself. Slowly and steadily, when we start moving further, it will be more clear to you, I mean, how all these interfaces actually works, right? And how these classes actually works, right? So for the time being, what I'm going to do, I'll just copy this click method from here, and I'll go over here, and I'll just give a string locator, and in send keys as well, I'll say string and the locator, and then string and the element, right? Or the value, sorry, right? So these are the two methods that we have implemented in this WebDriver, right? So WebDriver is an interface. Now if I need to implement this interface in all these classes, so what I need to do, I'll just say implements WebDriver, right? And when I implement this, I need to define all these methods over here. So there would be a different definition for these methods in Chrome driver, and same way when I implement this implements WebDriver, and then there would be different definition for these in Firefox driver. Same way in IE as well, I'll implement WebDriver, right? And I'll add these over here. So like in IE, I can say I'll just print clicked on an element in IE, and the element I can give it over here like element. Same way I'll write typed an element, and I'll give locator value entered, on the value. Give over here locator, right? Same thing I'll copy paste in all these methods, all these classes, and give Firefox over here. Sorry, Firefox, and Firefox over here I'll give IE, and same thing I'll do it for Chrome. Let's say Chrome, and then Chrome, right? So I've created one interface and I've created 3 classes, and now let's create a jar file of this WebDriver as well. So what I'll do, I'll just close everything and I'll go to file, go to export, jar, next, and select this WebDriver project and give it the name as Selenium WebDriver. And then I'll finish this. And this is the jar file Selenium WebDriver, right? Now I'll again open this project. I'll create a new project in which I'll be calling this WebDriver. So I'll create a new project, Java project, next, and give the project name as test my WebDriver project, right? So this will be my WebDriver project. I'll import the WebDriver jar. There's only the one jar, but if you take a look at the actual jar files of WebDriver, so there are so many jar files that you need to import. So I'm going to show you the same in this example itself. So now what I'll do, I'll create a new class and give it a name as test sample. Check this main method, click on finish. Now what will happen is, first of all, I will be working on Firefox. So I'll create an object of Firefox driver equal to new Firefox driver, right? Now as soon as I say this, what happens, I mean, when we are actually working on WebDriver, as soon as I run this, a new Firefox window opens up, right? So we have missed one thing. What I'll do inside this WebDriver project, I'll create a default constructor as well. So default constructor, we're not going to have any argument, so it has the same name as of class name, and I'll just say launching Firefox, right? Same way I'll create one for Chrome and one for IE. I'll say public Chrome driver, and I'll say launching Chrome, and then I'll create one for IE. I'll say public Internet Explorer, and I'll say launching IE, right? Launching Chrome, launching Firefox, and I again need to create a jar file. So what I'll do, I'll just close all these, and I'll again create a jar file of WebDriver. I'll just remove the previous one, and then I'll go to File, Export, Jar, Next, Finish, right? And in this project, I'll just remove this one first, and then import the latest one, right? So now what I'll do, when I say this Firefox driver equal to new Firefox driver, and I run this, so it says that launching Firefox. So when you practically implement it in WebDriver by accessing the actual jar files that they have created, then it will going to launch your Firefox driver. Same way, when you need to work on IE, you will call Internet Explorer driver equal to new Internet Explorer driver, and you import this, and when you run this, it says launching IE. And same is in the case with Chrome as well. Chrome driver equal to new Chrome driver, right? And now you import this. Chrome is also imported. When I run this, it says launching Chrome. Now the other way of doing is this, like we have already implemented our interface WebDriver in all these classes. So I can directly call the interface WebDriver. I'll create some reference variable and associate it to any of these classes. So if I say WebDriver driver equal to Firefox driver, and I'll import this WebDriver, and then I can say driver dot click, and in click I'll give some element name, let's say submit button. Same way I'll say driver dot send keys, I'll say text box, and the second argument is the value, that is trainer at way2automation.com. Now I'll save this, I'll run this, and you can see it's saying launching Firefox, clicked on an element in Firefox, submit button, typed in Firefox, and these values, right? Now when I need to change switch to the browser, I just need to change the class name over here. So instead of Firefox driver, I'll give the class name over here Chrome driver, and I'll run this again, and these methods will be called from Chrome driver now. Same way if I change it to IE, and if I run this, and now these methods are called from IE, right? So right now, I mean, the definition that we have given is kind of same, but practically, I mean, these classes are talking to their browsers only. So the click method used in IE must have some other definition, Chrome has some other definition, and Firefox have some other definition. So if you called click from Internet Explorer class, and we have called the class over here as well instead of the interface, then it will be difficult for us when we need to switch to another browser using the class of that browser, right? In that way, the methods that will be implemented might be of the Internet Explorer class, and we are then using the Chrome driver class, so we might face an error over there, right? So basically the concept of interface came in just to support the multiple inheritance, right? Because in Java there is no concept of multiple inheritance, and interface is the one they have implemented to support the concept of multiple inheritance, right? So in sometimes this will be very clear to you once you start working on WebDriver, right? Now let's come to the main topic. Let's come to the actual session of WebDriver. So these were all the dummy things that we have created, that I have actually created to just show you how actually Selenium works, how actually WebDriver works. These are just an API, and we are calling them in our Java project in order to automate our web-based application, right? So these are not a tool that you can download and install on your machine and just double click and it will start working, right? These are just Java APIs. It's just the jar files, and the entire Java project is implemented inside that, right? So I'll create a new project and give this project name as test WebDriver. Click on finish, and in this I'll be importing the jars of WebDriver. So from where we can get the jars of WebDriver, I'll go to the main website of Selenium, that is seleniumhu.org. I'll go to the download section, and from here, this is the one we have downloaded for Selenium RC. For WebDriver, we need to download this Java client version 2.33. So you can download this one. I have downloaded the previous one version. I think I have the previous version of jars with me, that is 2.28. You can download the latest one, right? The latest one have some more bug fixes, right? So you can download the latest one. Both will gonna work the same way, right? So what I'll do, I'll just import. If you see the jar file, the folder structure, these are the two jar files that you need to add to your project, and these are all the library files that you need to add to your project, right? So these all are the WebDriver jars. In RC you have seen only one jar file, whereas in WebDriver there are so many jar files, right? So right click over here, go to build path, configure build path, add external jars, go to C drive, softwares, jars, and here I'm gonna select these two jars, plus I'm gonna select all these jars. I'll click on OK, and all these will be added to my project. Now I'll create a new project and give it a name as test sample. This is my first project, a sample project of WebDriver, and in this what I'll do, I'll start calling the classes by calling the WebDriver interface first. So I'll go to Java doc, I'll go to the WebDriver interface. So we'll start with Firefox first, because for IE and for Chrome we need to do some configuration changes as well. We need some exe files that we need that supports these browsers, because initially when Selenium was designed, it was only designed for Firefox, right? So I'll show you how we can implement in Chrome and IE as well. So I'll start with Firefox first. So I'll just, if I don't call the WebDriver interface, and if I say web Firefox driver equal to new Firefox driver, this is how we have created in our sample project. I'll just you'll get an option of import from org, OpenQA, Selenium, Firefox, right? Now I'll just save it and run this, and you're gonna see a WebDriver session will be initiated in the Firefox window. So it takes a couple of seconds to launch for the first time. See, this is your Firefox window with a WebDriver session. At the bottom right, you can see that WebDriver is written over here, right? Now we can start calling the methods, but we should make a practice to call it through a interface only, right? So that it will be really helpful to switch between the browsers. So I'll call the interface WebDriver, right? Now I'll say driver dot the very first method get, and in the get method I can type the complete URL, say gmail.com. I'll save this and run this. As soon as I run it, it will gonna go to gmail.com, right? I need to print the title from this page, so we have the same method, that is driver dot get title. So this is the same method we have in RC as well, and here we have the same method for getting the title of the current page. I'll save it, run it. And this will going to print the title of the current page over here, right? Now let's see how to handle the elements on these on the web page with the help of WebDriver, right? So same, we're gonna use the same tools, that is Firebug and Firepath, that we have used in Selenium RC. So I'll go to Gmail again, and I'll inspect this element. So if you remember in RC, they have used a method Selenium, that is Selenium dot is element present. So they have a method implemented over there in default Selenium class. Basically this method was responsible to identify an element on a web page. Let's say if I have given this locator with the element with this method Selenium dot is element present like this. Now what it's gonna do, it will gonna first locate this element on a web page, and this was a boolean method, so it will gonna return a value true or false, right? So I can add a condition like if Selenium dot is element present this, if this element is present, then Selenium dot type and type in that particular element, right? So this is how we used to do in Selenium RC, but this was not mandatory, right? I can directly use Selenium dot type and it will gonna type inside this element in case we are working on Selenium RC, right? But in WebDriver it is mandatory to find the element first. Like in RC it was not mandatory to find the element, right? But in WebDriver it is actually mandatory to find the element first before we can work on it. So how to find it? If I write driver dot, we have a method over here that is find element, right, which helps in finding the element on the page, right? So there is an argument over here. Basically this argument is a by class, right? So this by class has some methods associated with it. So if I say by dot, I have all these methods available over here. Like we can find it by the ID, by the name, by the tag name, by the XPath, right? All these properties we have over here. So if I say by dot ID, and you can see the ID of this element is email. So I'll copy this and I'll paste it over here, right? Now let's say if I have a value as 100, right? I can store this 100 value inside a variable, let's say value equal to 100, and this value will gonna have some data type. Now this data type cannot be of a string type, right? It cannot be of a character type. It cannot be of let's say float type or double type. It can only be of a type integer, right? This 100, because this 100 is an integer value, it can only be stored inside an integer data type. Same way, I can store this element as well inside some variable. I can create a variable element equal to this, and I can store this element inside this variable element equal to this. Now this element should have some data type as well. Now it cannot be a string, right? It cannot be an int, right? So what data type it should be of? It should be of an web element data type. So this web element is an interface. So we have another interface over here, that is web element, and this element is a reference variable in which we have stored the property of this element, that is this text box, right? Now if you see over here, we got this import web element. So this is actually another interface, web element, right? So now what I can do, if I write element dot, I get all these methods over here. Methods like click, methods like send keys, right? So let's say I need to type inside it. So the method goes like send keys, and I can give the value as Raman at way2automation.com, right? I'll just save it and run this. So it will go to gmail.com, and it will type the username over here, right? Same way, I can locate other elements over here. I can locate this password, and this time I can say element equal to, I can use the same variable. I can say element equal to driver dot find element by dot, this time I'll use this by dot xpath, and the xpath of this, I can take this xpath over here and I'll say element dot send keys, and I'll give some password value over here. Same way, I'll locate the element sign in, and I'll say element equal to driver dot find element by dot xpath, and I'll give the xpath over here, right? Or instead of xpath, we can use some other thing as well, like by dot name, and name of this sign in is, let's say, sign in. It has a name as sign in. And what I need to do, I need to click on sign in. So I'll say element dot click, right? And after entering username, password, clicking on sign in, as soon as it clicks on sign in, it's taking some time, it is going to throw some error, right? The username or password you entered is incorrect. Now what if I need to get this username password value? I'll again say element equal to driver dot find element by dot xpath. I'll give the xpath over here, and then I'll say element dot get text, and I'll just print this. Right, now let's run it. So you might feel this bit complex as compared to Selenium RC at the very beginning. If you have already worked on Selenium RC, right? This is because we have so many interfaces and classes that are used over here. Like in this example, we have seen one class as Firefox driver, the other classes by, and then we have seen two interfaces over here like WebDriver and Web Element. So WebDriver is completely object oriented, right? So the more you practice in WebDriver, the more you will be familiar with all these classes and interfaces, right? Now instead of using this Web Element, I could have used it directly as well. So if I just remove this, I can use this directly. I can directly say driver dot find element by dot id, and the id for the first element is email, and then I can say dot send keys, and in send keys I'll say Raman at way2automation.com. So I can use this directly as well, right? So I can call this thing and I will say dot send keys and the password, then this thing, and then dot click. Then this thing dot get text, and then print this entirely, right? I'll just save it and run it again. I'll go to Gmail, and it will also going to do the same thing that we have done with the help of an interface WebDriver. Then what exactly is the difference? I mean, if we can use it directly like this, then why we have used this web element interface, right? So this will not be very much clear to you in this example. When I'm going to cover the next example, you will be very much clear on this part, that why this web element interface is required and why we have stored this element inside this interface and then we have used it. Rather, if we can use it directly as well, then what is the relevance of this web element? This web element is really important. Most of the examples cannot be covered without this web element interface, and in sometimes it will be very clear to you. So we're gonna see these things in our next example, in our next session, right? So we'll do up till this in our current WebDriver session. So just practice the stuff that's been taught, because WebDriver only demands practice. That's it. There's nothing that you can see over here and you can learn and you will get everything in WebDriver. It only comes by the practice. Just go through the main website of Selenium HQ and read as much as you can of WebDrivers. So there's a very good documentation present over here. Just try to call all these methods, try to use these methods, right? And just watch these videos. These are very straightforward videos, and you'll get a lot of good information inside it, and this will definitely going to help in your way to automation, right? All right then, thank you guys, thanks for your time, bye bye.